Every month, one of the richest men in the world summons his 5 children to a 90-minute meeting that feels like a real-life episode of Succession. They're all auditioning, not for a TV show, but for control of a $380 billion luxury empire that owns Louis Vuitton, Dior, Tiffany, and 72 other brands. But who they are, and what's all this family drama? Let's find out in this jaw-dropping deep dive about one of the richest families in the world. The monthly audition for a throne. Picture this: inside the gilded headquarters of LVMH in Paris, a ritual unfolds every single month that would make the writers of Succession jealous. 74-years-old Bernard Arnault, who's worth somewhere between $180 billion and $220 billion depending on the day, gathers his 5 children around a table. But this isn't some casual Sunday brunch where everyone chats about their weekend plans. This is a 90-minute, tension-soaked strategic meeting where each child presents ideas, defends decisions, and essentially auditions for the ultimate prize: control of the world's largest luxury empire. Delphine, Antoine, Alexandre, Frederic, and Jean, all holding executive positions within LVMH, know that every answer they give, every strategy they propose, could be the make-or-break moment that determines who ascends to the throne when Bernard eventually steps down. And we're not talking about some mid-tier family business here. LVMH controls 75 of the world's most prestigious brands: Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior, Moet and Chandon, Hennessy, Tiffany Co, Fendi, Bulgari, Tag Heuer. The empire generates over $90 billion in annual revenue and employs more than 200,000 people worldwide. All that is a proof that Bernard Arnault is the game itself when it comes to luxury. Not just a player, but the entire board. But here's what makes this story fascinating. Bernard has never publicly named a successor. Not one clear heir, just 5 extremely qualified, extremely ambitious children all vying for a crown that only one of them can wear. The whole setup is ruthlessly strategic. In 2023, Bernard proposed reorganizing his holding company, Audition, to distribute equal stakes among all 5 children. Sounds fair, right? Except equal stakes don't mean equal power. Someone still has to run the show, make the final calls, be the face of LVMH when Bernard's gone. And that decision? That's what these monthly meetings are really about. But to understand how we got here, and how one French family came to dominate global luxury so completely that no one even comes close, we've got to rewind to the industrial north of France in the mid-1900s, where Bernard Arnault's story begins in a place you'd never associate with champagne and handbags. From construction sites to couture, the rise of the Arnaults. Northern France in the early 1900s wasn't glamorous. Smokestacks painted the sky gray. Factory machinery clanked relentlessly. Streets bustled with working-class families grinding through industrial labor. This is where the Arnault family planted roots, not in luxury, but in manufacturing and construction. Bernard's father, Jean Arnault, ran a construction company called Heirs, building structures, managing projects, dealing in bricks and mortar rather than silk and leather. Bernard Jean-Étienne Arnault was born March 5, 1949 in Roubaix, a French industrial city. From the start, he wasn't just another fortunate heir coasting on family money. He was a prodigy, absorbing everything his father could teach him about business, strategy, and the ruthless efficiency required to succeed. Bernard studied from 1969 to 1971 at École Polytechnique in Paris, which is one of France's most elite engineering schools, where he soaked up knowledge in engineering, science, and technology. He wasn't just attending classes, he was sharpening tools for a future where he would revolutionize the entire business industry. After graduating in 1971, Bernard joined his father's construction company, put in charge of 100 employees. But here's the twist. He wasn't content being a dutiful son following dad's blueprint. He wanted to rewrite it entirely. In 1974, Bernard convinced his father to pivot from construction to real estate, focusing on holiday accommodations. It was a calculated move, less about building structures, more about building wealth through property. The company sold its industrial construction arm and went all in on real estate, expanding rapidly under Bernard's strategic vision. Then 1981 hit, and France's Socialist Party seized power. Bernard, ever the strategist, saw potential instability and moved his family to the United States for 3 years, continuing to grow Ferret-Savinel's property portfolio from abroad. But 1984 marked the dramatic turn, the moment Bernard Arnault left construction behind forever and made his grand theatrical plunge into luxury. With backing from Antoine Bernheim of Lazard Frères, Bernard raised $80 million. His target? Boussac Saint-Frère, a bankrupt French textile giant that happened to own Christian Dior. Everyone thought he was insane. The company was bleeding money. The textile business was dying. Why would anyone throw $80 million at a sinking ship? Because Bernard saw what nobody else could see. Buried inside this failing conglomerate was one of the most valuable brand names in fashion history, Christian Dior. And if he could extract it, revive it, and build around it, he could create something unprecedented. What happened next would reshape the entire luxury industry. The Dior resurrection and the birth of an empire. Bernard Arnault didn't just buy Boussac Saint-Frère, he performed corporate surgery. First, he ruthlessly streamlined operations, identifying and shedding non-essential assets with surgical precision. Textile factories that were hemorrhaging cash, sold. Outdated manufacturing facilities, gone. He trimmed the conglomerate down to its most profitable and promising core, Christian Dior. Then he did something most business people wouldn't have the guts to do. He invested heavily in what remained. High-quality materials, refined design processes, ensuring every Dior product exemplified the pinnacle of craftsmanship and style. He also aggressively expanded Dior's global footprint, opening boutiques in key luxury markets, transforming stores into immersive brand experiences rather than just retail spaces. Within a few years, Dior wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, setting new benchmarks in luxury fashion and generating serious profits. But Bernard's ambitions extended far beyond a single brand. He was building an empire, and 1987 marked the pivotal year that changed everything. Bernard orchestrated the merger of Louis Vuitton with Moet Hennessy, creating LVMH, Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy. He positioned himself as chairman and CEO, envisioning a conglomerate of high-end brands under one roof. The idea initially faced skepticism. Luxury brands were supposed to be independent, exclusive, artisanal. Combining them under corporate ownership seemed contrary to their very essence. Bernard proved the skeptics wrong. His strategic acumen transformed LVMH into a triumphant reality, eventually amassing over 75 luxury brands under one banner. By the mid-1990s, LVMH's value had surged by over 1,000%, and profits increased by 500%. The company expanded aggressively into Asia, with China and South Korea eagerly embracing luxury offerings. LVMH wasn't just growing. It was shaping culture, setting trends, becoming the standard by which all luxury was measured. In 1999, Bernard unveiled the LVMH Tower in New York, a majestic architectural statement symbolizing his bold vision and LVMH's dominance in the United States. By the turn of the millennium, LVMH had firmly established itself as the largest luxury products company in the world, a testament to Bernard's visionary leadership and relentless pursuit of excellence. But while Bernard was building this empire, something equally important was happening in his personal life, because every dynasty needs heirs, and Bernard was carefully cultivating his. The family that rules luxury. Bernard Arnault and Hélène Mercier first crossed paths at a dinner party in fall 1989. Hélène, born in Montreal in February 1960, had been a piano prodigy since age 6, earning accolades at prestigious competitions across Canada and Europe. Her entrance into Bernard's life brought a melodious balance to his entrepreneurial rhythm. They married in 1991, and Hélène embraced the role of stepmother to Bernard's 2 children from his previous marriage, Delphine and Antoine. Together, Bernard and Hélène expanded the family with 3 more children, Alexandre, Frédéric, and Jean. Now here's where the story gets interesting. Given the scale of his empire, Bernard knew that raising his children just to be wealthy socialites won't cut it. So he strategically groomed each one of them to run his massive empire. Let's take a look at all 5 of his children. Delphine Arnault, born in 1975, is the eldest. After studying at EdHec Business School and the London School of Economics, she cut her teeth at McKinsey Consulting before joining the family empire at John Galliano in 2000. She quickly ascended to Dior's commercial directorship, then became deputy managing director, overseeing a surge in leather goods and accessories. In 2013, she became executive vice president of Louis Vuitton, skillfully navigating the brand through luxury market shifts. By 2023, she was named CEO of Christian Dior, a historic appointment within the Arnault dynasty and a clear signal that she's a frontrunner in the succession race. Second one is Antoine Arnault, who was also raised partly in the United States. He pursued business education in Montreal before joining Louis Vuitton in 2002. His marketing prowess came to the fore during his tenure as head of marketing, and in 2012, he became CEO of Berluti, steering it to fiscal heights. In 2013, he took the helm of Loro Piana, and by 2018, he became head of communication and image for LVMH, bolstering the group's digital presence. Speculation about Antoine succeeding Bernard runs rampant, especially as Bernard subtly altered LVMH's leadership age threshold, potentially clearing the path for his son. Born in 1992, Alexandre Arnault embodies youthful vigor. A product of Paris's elite institutions and the London School of Economics, he became executive vice president of Tiffany Co in 2023, injecting technology and innovation into the brand with precision. Frédéric Arnault, born in 1995, helms Tag Heuer as CEO. And under his stewardship, the brand has boomed, with certain watch models becoming as coveted as golden tickets. The youngest of the lot is Jeanne Arnault, and she leads watch development and marketing at Louis Vuitton, weaving strategy, innovation, and new product launches into a symphony of success. In short, all the children hold significant executive roles, and while each one of them attend those monthly strategy meetings, they all know that only one can ultimately inherit the crown. But while this family drama unfolds internally, externally, Bernard has faced controversies that reveal the darker side of building a luxury empire. The dark side: espionage, surveillance, and power plays. In November 2024, Bernard Arnault did something he rarely does. He appeared in court, not as a defendant, but as a witness in a sprawling trial involving espionage, surveillance, and allegations that LVMH ran a private intelligence network. On the defendant's bench sat 10 individuals accused of participating in a surveillance system serving LVMH. Former police officials, intelligence specialists, an ex-magistrate, a prefect, and most notably, Bernard Squarcini, nicknamed the Squale, the Shark. Squarcini had been head of France's domestic intelligence agency before becoming a security consultant for LVMH. The accusations? That he and others conducted illegal surveillance operations targeting journalists, competitors, and perceived threats to LVMH's interests. One case involved François Ruffin, a journalist and filmmaker creating Merci Patron, a documentary critical of Bernard Arnault. According to wiretapped conversations revealed by Mediapart, Squarcini and LVMH executives discussed infiltrating Ruffin's editorial team. Two undercover operatives posing as journalists successfully infiltrated the magazine Fakir, feeding information back to LVMH. Phone intercepts captured Squarcini updating Bernard's personal secretary Karine, who responded enthusiastically, "It's really great what you've done. It's genius. We've infiltrated." Another case involved Frank Alioui, a French police officer who revealed that in 2008, he was ordered to conduct surveillance on behalf of Bernard Arnault during an extortion attempt. Instead of handling it through normal judicial channels, state intelligence resources, paid for by taxpayers, were deployed to serve private interests. Alioui later wrote to a judge, "Within the intelligence agency where I worked, I became aware of abuses that shocked my conception of being a Republican police officer. I was sometimes required to work for private interests on instructions from my hierarchy. Taxpayer money was used to serve certain friends of power. The surveillance operation identified the blackmailer, a former bodyguard of Bernard Arnault, but no official arrest was made. Instead, a private security firm took over, handling the situation quietly. LVMH avoided trial by signing a CJEP, Judicial Public Interest Agreement, paying a €10 million fine, 0.01% of its 2021 revenue, without admitting guilt or facing criminal prosecution. François Ruffin was furious. The person who ordered this infiltration operation is LVMH. The beneficiary is LVMH, and yet LVMH and Bernard Arnault have been exfiltrated from this trial. How? They paid a €10 million check to the state, which accepted that in exchange, they wouldn't be on the defendant's bench. The trial revealed a world where immense wealth blurs lines between private security and state power, where surveillance targets journalists and competitors, and where €10 million buys you out of a criminal trial. Bernard testified for over 3 hours, insisting, "I want to remind you that I'm here as a witness, just a witness, and that we signed a CJIP. In this agreement, it states that the group admits no responsibility." The scandal raised uncomfortable questions. Does extreme wealth grant access to state resources? Can billionaires operate private intelligence networks? And what does accountability even mean when fines are negligible compared to revenues? But while controversies swirl, Bernard's empire keeps expanding, and his wealth keeps climbing to levels that defy comprehension. The $220 billion man, how the wealth machine works. Bernard Arnault's net worth fluctuates between $180 billion and $220 billion depending on LVMH's stock price, making him frequently the richest person on Earth. Let's break down how that actually works, because it's not just about selling handbags. LVMH generated over $94 billion in revenue in 2023 across 6 business segments: fashion and leather goods, including Louis Vuitton, Dior, and Fendi; wines and spirits, including Moet and Chandon, and Hennessy; perfumes and cosmetics that include Dior, Givenchy; watches and jewelry, including Tag Heuer, Bulgari, and Tiffany; and selective retailing, including Sephora and DFS, as well as some other activities. The fashion and leather goods division alone generates roughly 48% of total revenue, around $45 billion annually, with operating margins near 40%. That's insane profitability. Bernard owns approximately 47.5% of LVMH through his family holding company Agache and personal stakes. When LVMH's market cap hovers around $380 billion, his stake is worth roughly $180 billion. But the wealth compounds beyond LVMH. Bernard owns significant real estate: 5 homes in Beverly Hills totaling $125 million, a $22 million estate in East Hampton, a Paris mansion, housing works by Basquiat, Damien Hirst, Picasso, and Warhol. His art collection alone is likely worth hundreds of millions, perhaps over $1 billion. He founded the Louis Vuitton Foundation in 2006, a Frank Gehry-designed museum in Paris that's become a cultural landmark. His influence extends into politics, maintaining close relationships with French heads of state, and philanthropy. In 2019, after Notre Dame Cathedral caught fire, Bernard pledged €200 million for restoration, spurring other French tycoons to collectively donate €300 million. But the empire doesn't stand still. LVMH continues acquiring brands aggressively to expand further and further. In 2021, LVMH completed its $15.8 billion acquisition of Tiffany Co, the largest luxury goods deal in history, placing Alexandre Arnault as executive VP to oversee the brand's revitalization. In 2023, LVMH acquired a majority stake in Birkenstock, signaling expansion even into more accessible luxury segments. Bernard's strategy is clear: acquire heritage brands with strong identities, inject capital and expertise, expand globally, and extract maximum value while maintaining brand prestige. It's a formula that's worked for 40 years and shows no signs of slowing. And as the empire grows, the question everyone's asking becomes more urgent: Who will inherit this when Bernard's gone? The succession. Who gets the crown? Let's play the succession game because this is the part where the story gets genuinely fascinating. Delphine Arnault is the frontrunner in many eyes. As CEO of Christian Dior and the eldest child, she's proven her leadership capabilities, her strategic thinking, and her ability to navigate LVMH's complex internal politics. Bernard has publicly praised her business acumen, and her appointment to Dior was seen as a clear signal. But being the favorite doesn't guarantee the throne. Antoine Arnault controls LVMH's image and communication strategy, overseeing billion-dollar marketing campaigns and brand positioning. He's charismatic, media-savvy, and deeply embedded in LVMH's digital transformation. Some insiders believe Bernard altered the mandatory retirement age specifically to keep Antoine in play longer. Alexandre Arnault represents the future. Young, tech-forward, and tasked with revitalizing Tiffany, one of LVMH's most expensive acquisitions. If he succeeds in turning Tiffany around, he'll have proven he can handle massive responsibility under pressure. Frédéric Arnault has made Tag Heuer wildly successful, demonstrating an ability to drive growth in the competitive luxury watch market. He's analytical, strategic, and results-driven. Jean Arnault, although younger, is already making waves in watch development at Louis Vuitton, showing technical expertise and innovation. Bernard has structured Agache, the family holding company, to give all 5 children equal stakes. But equal ownership doesn't mean equal power. Someone has to be CEO. Someone has to make final decisions. Someone has to be the public face. And Bernard hasn't tipped his hand yet. Those monthly meetings? They're not just strategy sessions, they're auditions. Bernard is watching, evaluating, testing his children under pressure to see who has the vision, the temperament, and the ruthlessness required to lead LVMH into the next generation. One analyst compared it to Succession, but with higher stakes, because this isn't about a fictional media company. This is about the largest luxury empire in human history, employing hundreds of thousands, shaping global culture, and generating nearly $100 billion annually. Whoever wins this game doesn't just inherit wealth. They inherit power, influence, and responsibility on a scale few people ever experience. But here's the kicker. Bernard is 74. He's not stepping down anytime soon. He's proposed raising LVMH's executive age limit to 80, giving himself 6 more years minimum at the helm, which means the auditions continue, the tension builds, and the Arnault children keep competing, knowing that every decision, every quarterly result, every strategic move is being scrutinized by the most demanding judge imaginable, their father. The empire that no one dares challenge. So what does all of this add up to? The Arnault family controls 75 of the world's most prestigious brands. They generate nearly $100 billion in annual revenue. They employ over 200,000 people. They shape what billions of people around the world consider desirable, fashionable, and luxurious. They've turned luxury from an industry into an empire, centralized, strategic, and utterly dominant. No competitor comes close. Kering, Gucci, Saint Laurent, Balenciaga, does about $20 billion in revenue. Richemont, Cartier, Van Cleef, and Arpels does about $22 billion. Hermès, the eternal rival, does about $13 billion. LVMH dwarfs them all. And the Arnault family's influence extends beyond commerce. Bernard's 200 million euros, Notre Dame donation, his art foundation, his political connections, his ability to mobilize state resources during crises. This is power, not just wealth, but influence that shapes nations, cultures, and industries. The surveillance scandals reveal the uncomfortable truth. When you're this wealthy, normal rules bend. 10 million euros fines become rounding errors. Private security blurs into state intelligence. Accountability becomes negotiable. But the empire keeps growing, the brands keep expanding, the wealth keeps compounding. And those 5 Arnault children keep showing up to those monthly meetings, knowing that one of them, eventually, will inherit the crown of the world's most powerful luxury dynasty. Bernard Arnault built something unprecedented. He took construction company money and turned it into a $380 billion empire. He proved that luxury brands could be consolidated, managed corporately, and scaled globally without losing prestige. He created a family business where the business is global domination. And now, his children are fighting, politely, strategically, ruthlessly, for the chance to continue that legacy. This isn't just a succession story. It's a masterclass in power, strategy, and empire building. It's Succession meets Game of Thrones meets the actual business world, where the stakes are real and the throne is worth $380 billion. So who gets the crown? Delphine, the proven leader? Antoine, the strategist? Alexandre, the innovator? Frederick, the growth driver? Jean, the dark horse? Only Bernard knows, and he's not telling. But one thing's certain. Whoever wins this game will control the most powerful luxury empire in human history. An empire no one dares challenge, built by a family that turned ambition into absolute dominance. And honestly, that's not just business, that's legacy. That's power. And that's the Arnault family rewriting what it means to build something that lasts. And with that note, we conclude our journey through the family dynamics of one of the richest dynasties in the world. Which part of the Arnault story moved you the most? Let us know in the comments, and for more such interesting peeks into how global wealth is prospering across the globe, take a look at Global Status.